So I wanted to share the sort of non-combat XP encounter system that I had made. So I'm going to give you a rundown of that, and then I'm not going to make you like go. It's on the wiki if you want to check it out. You can go to the tovia.wiki, and there is a section called DM resources, and then under that is systems, and then under that is a couple systems that I made. But Encounter XP is all I've called this system, but it's built to be used for non-combat encounters, right? So how does it work? You can do some pre-planning or you can do it after the session. It's totally up to you. But if you're pre-planning, then you say, okay, I have sort of some things that could happen. Or if you have an encounter that you really want to happen or it will happen, depending on how railroady your game is, you will assign it a difficulty anywhere from what I call baseline to simplistic on like the easier end to difficult on the harder end, or hard I think is the hardest difficulty, and all those do is go from 0 at baseline to a -2 to a +2. -2 for simplistic, +2 for hard. What does that modify? It modifies a table that is based off of how long it takes to do the encounter during the session. Like a 30-minute encounter is not very long. That's maybe just speaking to an NPC, and so sometimes maybe that doesn't even warrant the use of the XP system, and that's kind of up to the DM, and I describe that a little bit in the system. But you use an average party level. I just have this number called APL, which is the average party level of the group, and that is modified to calculate a final CR. So I'm using CR. Why not use a system that already balances XP to level, right? A CR9 creature is supposed to give out a decent chunk, a reasonable chunk of XP to level 9 characters effectively, correct? So we take the average party level and then we modify that. We subtract from it if it's really short portion of the session, or we add to it if it's more than a 1 session long. If you're considering all of this one encounter, if you have a huge sort of like final boss, or you have, you know, some final level of a dungeon that you maybe consider 1 encounter or something like that, or a puzzle could be a 30-minute encounter or an hour or 2 hours, depending on your players. You never know. And so all of that gets modified by 1, the time that it takes to do in session, and then 2, the perceived difficulty by the DM. And then the DM is also free to bump those up or down depending on, did your players find a very creative solution to something? Or did the players not see the very obvious solution that you had presented and it felt like it took them longer than they needed to get something done? And so that kind of balances out a little bit. You felt like it took longer. Well, that means that the APL is modified upwards by time, but you modify it back down a little bit because you're like, well, I don't think I actually deserve that much XP for missing that for that long.